Hello guys and welcome to our channel Cracking Dentistry. Today we are going to discuss about odontogenic keratocyst. The term itself indicates the true nature of the cyst. The term odontogenic represents its origin from the dental lamina and that it is a developmental odontogenic cyst. Keratocyst is to indicate that it is a keratin forming cyst and that the keratin is seen filling the lumen. It is an aggressive lesion, has a high recurrent rate, and is associated with the syndrome nevoid basal cell carcinoma syndrome. Numerous sources of epithelium were proposed, but only two sources were accepted. The first one is its origin from the rest of dental lamina or the remnants of dental lamina. OKC is believed to be derived from the functional rest of dental lamina, which explains the unique nature of the cyst. So these cells have the potential to proliferate and then undergo keratinization. That is why OKC has a high proliferative index, aggressive behavior and keratin formation. So this again helps us in differentiating it from the remaining cysts derived from the dental lamina like the gingival cyst of adult and the lateral periodontal cyst, which are less aggressive because of its origin from the post-functional dental lamina. Now, the second source of epithelium is believed to be from the basal cells of the oral epithelium. So, this holds true for the extraneous variant of OKC, which is seen in a non-tooth bearing region of the jaw. Now, how does this epithelium form a cyst inside the bone? Now, the mandible has small spaces called the fenestrations. The proliferating basal cells enter through this in the form of basal cell offshoots. They enter the jaw and proliferate, eventually undergoing cystic degeneration, forming the OKC. These are called as basal cell hamartias. In the year 2005, WHO classified OKC as a benign epithelial odontogenic tumor called the keratocystic odontogenic tumor or the KCOT. The reasons that were proposed for this change were its locally destructive and aggressive nature, which was resembling that of a tumor. Second one was the increased recurrence following incomplete excision, similar to that of a tumor. Third one, last but the most important one, was that there is a mutation evident in the patched gene, which is commonly encountered in case of a neoplasm. However, in the fourth edition of the WHO classification in the year 2017, they reclassified this KCOT as a cyst again. The reasons proposed were that, funnily enough, the patch gene mutation, which was the main criteria for the reclassification of OKC, was evident only less than 30% of the non-syndromic cases. However, in the nevoid basal cell carcinoma syndrome, the main defect is the germline mutation of patched gene, and hence all syndromic OKCs revealed mutation of the patched gene. The second reason was that following marsupialization, the periphery of the cystic lining reverted back to the normal oral epithelium, which actually contradicted the Willis definition of neoplasm, which goes as an abnormal mass of tissue, the growth of which exceeds and is uncoordinated with that of the normal tissues and persists in the same excessive manner. Please note this, even after the cessation of the stimuli which evoke the change. Here, once the cyst and its contents were removed superficially, the periphery of the lesion is reverting back to normal, which is not the true nature of a tumor. Again, lastly, there is an unsupported evidence of a dermatological lesion resembling OKC, which is still considered as a cyst. According to WHO, currently there is no substantial evidence present to suggest the neoplastic nature of OKC. Further studies are actually needed to evaluate its true behavior. Now moving on to the clinical features. So it has a bimodal age presentation, peaking at both the second as well as the fourth decade of life. Men, however, have slightly higher predilection to develop this cyst than women. Caucasians are more commonly affected than any other race. Mandible is more commonly affected than the maxilla, with the ankle ramus region being the most common site. Clinically, the patient may be unaware of this condition and is detected in routine radiographic examination, or sometimes it can present with a clinically evident swelling. Pain is a feature only when it is secondarily infected. In case of nevoid basal cell carcinoma syndrome, multiple OKCs are seen either at the same time or along the course of the life of the affected individual. Radiographically, OKC presence is a well-defined radiolucency with corticated and sclerotic margins. Small lesions are unilocular radiolucencies, whereas large lesions present as multilocular radiolucencies with a sobubble appearance. Unlike dentigerous cyst, only minimal or sometimes no tooth resorption is evident with OKC. So another interesting factor about this OKC is that the lesion becomes clinically apparent only after substantial growth has occurred. This is because of the tendency of the cyst to grow within the medulla in an anterior-posterior direction rather than a buccolingual direction. Now in this radiographic image, you can see a well-defined large radiolucency with corticated margin, and the involved teeth are displaced rather than showing any evidence of significant resorption. Now radiographically, 4 types of OKC are evident: a replacemental type, collateral type, envelopmental type, and an extraneous type. Now this replacemental type is actually seen in place of a tooth. So when a radiographic evaluation is done to look for a missing tooth, we will be seeing this cyst. The second one, that is a collateral OKC, is seen in a lateral periodontal cyst position. The third one, that is envelopmental OKC, it is seen in association or along the course of an erupting or an impacted tooth, which resembles a dentigerous cyst. Now the fourth and the last one is the extraneous variant of OKC, which is seen in a non-tooth bearing region of the jaw. Again, care should be taken to distinguish this from an OKC which has perforated into the soft tissue. Next is the nevoid basal cell carcinoma syndrome, or the Gorlin-Gall syndrome. Now, this is most commonly present with a multiple OKC, multiple basal cell carcinomas, epidermal cyst, calcification of the falx cerebri, and palmar planta pit. Now, the defect here, as I already explained, is the germline mutation in the patched gene. Now, in this picture, you can see that, in the second picture, you can see a high arched palate. You can see there is evidence of palmar planta pits. Then here you can see there is a Sprengel scapular deformity, and the fifth diagram reveals a mild calcification of the falx cerebri. Here you can see there is bifid rib. Then the orthopanorama actually reveals multiple odontogenic cysts that is evident in the same patient, and the last radiograph shows the post-operative radiograph of the individual where all these cysts have been removed. Microscopically, odontogenic keratocyst is characteristic and pathognomonic. So you can see a thin friable cystic lining which has uniform thickness throughout the section. Here, the basal cells are columnar with pycnotic hyperchromatic nucleus which is polarized away from the basement membrane. These cells have a palisaded appearance which gives rise to the picket fence or the tombstone appearance. The middle cells, or the cells overlying the basal cells, they are polyhedral and edematous, and the superficially you can see there is evidence of parakeratin formation. Now, to easily remember the features of the cyst, you should remember 4P's and 1C. So the 4P stands for the parakeratin, palisading, pycnotic nuclei and the picket fence appearance, whereas the C stands for the corrugated appearance of the parakeratin. Now in the connective tissue, you can see the fibrous connective tissue which occasionally shows certain satellite cysts. Now these basal cells, they have a tendency to form buds occasionally which will cut off and go to the connective tissue to form a future cyst. This can be called as a satellite cyst. So here in this picture you can see the cystic lining. So it is clearly evident that the epithelial connective tissue interface is flat. So the epithelium has a tendency to just peel off from the underlying connective tissue. So here in these two pictures you can see the satellite cyst that is evident in the OKC. Next, there is another variant called as follicular OKC. Now again, this is considered as a separate variant of OKC, but is not true. See, what happens is a tooth is erupting. So along the path of eruption, there is an OKC. Any variant can be an extraneous, can be an envelopmental, can be a collateral. So what happens is, as the tooth erupts, it's going to erupt into the odontogenic keratocyst. So now, when a biopsy is done in an area where both the follicle as well as the OKC lining is taken, we will see the histopathological picture of OKC and misdiagnose it as a follicular OKC. Now moving on to the differential diagnosis. So for a large OKC with multilocular appearance, 3 DDs can be given, which is an ameloblastoma, an odontogenic myxoma and ameloblastic fibroma. So again, they can be differentiated based on their histopathological features and their clinical course. Next, when you have a collateral OKC, it may resemble a lateral periodontal cyst, which again can be differentiated on the basis of its histopathological features. Lastly, in case of an envelopmental OKC, which is associated with an impacted or an unerupted tooth, a differential diagnosis of dentigerous cyst can be given. Again, the differentiating feature irrespective of the histopathology can be the expansion. That is, dentigerous cyst has a tendency to expand to a large size and has the ability to resorb the root of the overlying tooth. Next, treatment. So the 4 treatments are followed. So it can be treated by enucleation. Sometimes enucleation and cryotherapy is done. So if there is a erupting primary or a permanent tooth, then you can try and marsupialization with cystectomy. But again, marsupialization has a higher tendency of recurrence than with enucleation, and traditionally the method followed is enucleation with Carnoy solution. So Carnoy solution is a combination of 60% of ethanol, 30% of chloroform, 10% of glacial acetic acid in a ratio of 6:3:1. So this actually acts as a nuclear fixator. So it has a mummifying effect. So it fixes the nucleus of the cell, thereby preventing the proliferation of the epithelium if it is left back, thereby preventing recurrence. Nowadays, the usage of Carnoy solution is not favored because it is believed to have a carcinogenic tendency. So it has a high recurrence rate of 25 to 60%. Why does it have such a high recurrence rate? So you've seen so many cysts before, none of them had such a high recurrence. So the reason is that it is because of the incomplete removal of the cystic lining, because it is very friable and thin. Sometimes the epithelium might have just peeled off from the underlying connective tissue and easily just left out. Then the basal cells, they have a high proliferative activity. So it has a very high Ki-67 index. So I told you that sometimes the basal cells have the tendency to form some buds. So these budding might be very significant and might have been left out. So this OKC, when it has reached a very large size, it can actually perforate the bone, go to the soft tissue and deposit some of its epithelium over there. This can act as a future source of the recurrent lesion. Again, satellite cyst, the daughter cyst, or any remnants of the dental lamina that is evident within the connective tissue, all these can give rise to a new OKC, contributing to its high recurrence rate. Now, why did OKC and the orthokeratinized odontogenic split up? So, till the 2005 classification, they were considered to be a parakeratinized and orthokeratinized variant of the same cyst. They had same clinical features. The OOC, however, was believed to arise from the oral epithelium under the influence of the dental papilla, and like I told you, was considered as the orthokeratinized variant of OKC. But however, in the year 2017, WHO actually cut out OOC from the OKC and put it as a separate entity. So, there was again some controversies regarding to its origin from the reduced enamel epithelium, where they said that this OOC may actually be a variant of dentigerous cyst, wherein the reduced enamel epithelium has undergone keratinization under the appropriate stimuli. Then they said that, see, OKC is an aggressive lesion. It is always associated with Gorlin syndrome, and the histopathology of this particular cyst is very beautiful and very characteristic. But when you move on to the case of your OOC, or the orthokeratinized odontogenic cyst, it is not clinically aggressive, it does not have high proliferative index, it is not associated with the syndrome, and it lacks even one of the characteristic histopathological features of OKC. So since it shared none of these features other than the clinical pattern, WHO suggested that it should be classified as a separate entity rather than a variant of OKC. Histopathologically, OOC has flat or cuboidal cells and a prominent stratum granulosum, and you can see orthokeratinized plaques that is dispersed within the cystic lumen. So see, here in this picture you can see the orthokeratinization, which is very thick and lamellated and lacks a corrugation of the parakeratinization. And again you can see a prominent granulosum layer, and the basal cells lack the palisading picket fence or the pycnotic nuclear appearance as characteristic as with OKC. Now again, this particular cyst can be managed with enucleation without much high recurrence rate. So guys, thank you for watching this video. Please press the subscribe and the like button and share your comments. Thank you and have a nice day.